Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Progress with number 3 in the series Checkmate in 2 moves. I've got 3 positions for you again. One of them was sent to me by a viewer. We'll leave that one for last. Let's first look at this position. The composer is Bernd Ellinghoven and it was published in 1971. White to checkmate the black king on the second move. How can we do this? Well, of course, white has a ton of material up, queen and 2 bishops versus 2 pawns, but there's only one way we can checkmate black in 2 moves. When I looked at this position first, I first looked at queen d4, because it has a checkmate threat on g7, and it looks there's nothing black can do against that, but actually there is king g6, and the king can flee to h5 if need be. So queen d4 does not work. Let's look at other moves. Let's try queen g3. And we again have that checkmate threat on g7, and king g6 is now an illegal move. But black has g5, and there's no checkmate on the second move. g6, by the way, does not work, because then there is queen c7 checkmate. But g5 does work, there's no checkmate. So back again. We can try queen f3. It's a good attempt, it's a waiting move, and king g6 does not work because of queen f5 checkmate. But now king h8 saves the day, and no matter what we try, there's no checkmate on the next move. So what can we do? Well, the solution is to play the queen from d3 to h3. Why does that work? Well, black has 5 moves, 5 legal moves. Let's look at all of them. We can play king g6, but then queen f5 is checkmate. So that doesn't work. We can try to play the g-pawn, and after g6, queen d7 is checkmate. We already saw a checkmate like that. And after g5, there is queen f5 checkmate again. Okay, so there's 2 other moves we can try. We can try h5, but that's very simple. Queen takes h5 is checkmate. This bishop takes away the g8 square. Finally, the move that seems to save black is king h8. But now we have the nicest checkmate of them all, which is queen takes h6 is checkmate, because the g-pawn is pinned. And this bishop also plays a role. Very nice. So this is starting position, and queen h3 is the only move that delivers checkmate on the next move. And we saw a few nice variations. Nice little composition, not too many pieces on the board. Bernd Ellinghoven, 1971. Let's go to the next one. This position was composed by a composer with the name of Fossum, and it was published in 1951 in a Norwegian chess magazine. Why to play and checkmate the black king on the second move? Well, now we have really an awful lot of pieces. We have queen, rook and 2 knights against only a pawn for black, and that black king is completely surrounded by the white pieces. But there's only one way to checkmate in 2 moves, which seems very surprising. But there's only one first move that leads to checkmate on the second move. If you want to look for yourself, put the video on pause. I'll get the solution now. The only first move that delivers checkmate on the second move is knight g2 to e1. The threat is now to take on c2 with the queen with checkmate. So king moves to c1 or d1 do not work. Let's have a quick look. If we go with the king to c1, queen takes c2 as checkmate. And if we go to d1, we take the knight on d1, then also queen takes c2 is checkmate. Okay, so those moves, king moves don't work, so all we have left is moves with the c-pawn. Of course, the c-pawn can go to c1, but it also can take the knight on d1. Let's look at c1 first. Let's play c1 queen. Well, then we have a different checkmate. Of course, queen c2 is now not checkmate. The queen will just take that queen. But we have queen d4 checkmate. And the king cannot flee to c1 because we just promoted there. This same variation works if black promotes to a rook or a bishop on c1. But what about, let's go back, what about c1 knight? Now queen d4 does not work because we interpose the knight. Well then, queen c2 works again because the knight cannot take that queen. Very nice. So that was after promotion on c1. But as said, black can also promote on d1. Let's look at that. So we take on d1 and we promote to a queen. Now there's a different checkmate. Queen c3 now works because the king cannot go to d1 because now black promoted to a piece there and you cannot take your own piece. And this same variation works for promotion to rook or bishop. But again, we have to look at a knight promotion. So in this position, we promote on d1 to a knight. Now queen c3 does not work because the knight will just take the queen. But now we have the nicest checkmate of this whole composition, and that is knight f3 is now checkmate. Very nice checkmate. Hope you enjoyed this one from Fossum 1951. Let's go to the last one. This one was sent to me by Joel, a viewer, and Joel said he found this composition in a Google office. He had a tour of a Google office with his friends, and they have an area there with mind games and brain teasers and chess compositions, chess problems, and that's where he found this composition. It is a board full of pieces, but don't be discouraged by it. Hope you stay with me, because the solution is really, really, really beautiful. If we study the position, then we can see that the black king, of course, is in big trouble in the middle of the board, and all his pieces are on the edge. And what we can see is that there is a discovered attack possible from the bishop. If the bishop moves, then the rook will give check to the king. But we have to be careful, because if we move the bishop, then black can take that piece that's giving check. So just playing the bishop away does not work, because then black takes the rook and there's no checkmate on the next move. But we can try a double check. And if there's a double check, the only way to get out of a double check is by moving the king. So let's try that. Let's try bishop d5 double check. Both rook and bishop now give check to the king. But it doesn't work, because after king d3, there's no checkmate on the next move. That's a pity. And if we try the other double check, bishop f5 double check, then there is king takes f5. And yes, we have checkmate after queen h5 check, g5, rook d5 checkmate, but that's mate in 3, and we have to give checkmate in 2 moves. So back again. So taking the bishop away, even with a double check, does not work. I'll give the solution now if you want to keep looking. It's not easy. The only move that leads to checkmate on the second move is queen h1 to h3. A quiet move, a silent move. The threat now is bishop f5, because that bishop will now be covered by the queen, so that's checkmate. And is there anything that black can do against this? Well, if you study the position, then you see that the only way that black can prevent the checkmate with bishop f5 is by playing this rook away. Because if this rook goes somewhere, then bishop f5 is illegal, because the queen will have pinned that bishop to the king. So those are the variations we have to look at, and the nice thing is that in every rook move there's a different solution. Let's look at all of them. Let's play the rook to b5. And now, as said, bishop f5 is mate, but it's an illegal move because the queen will give check to the white king. But there is a checkmate, which is bishop c4. And that move is now possible because this bishop is no longer attacking the rook, because the black rook is in the way. So bishop c4 is now checkmate. Let's go back. Let's look at other rook moves. We can play the rook to b4. But now knight d2 is checkmate. And why is that suddenly checkmate? Because this bishop is no longer covering the d2 square. The rook is again in the way. Checkmate in 2. So let's go back again. After queen h3, we can also play the rook from b3 to c3. But then again, knight d2 is checkmate for the same reason as before, that bishop is no longer covering the d2 square. Mate in 2. What about if we play the rook to d3? Well then, bishop d5 is checkmate, because now the king cannot flee to d3 because the rook has gone there. Again, a different checkmate move. And if we play the rook to e3, then knight f2 is checkmate, as now the e3 square is unavailable for the black king. Again, a different checkmate. And finally, we can take the knight with the rook. Rook takes f3. But now, queen f5 is checkmate. That was not an option earlier because the queen had to defend the knight on f3. But now that the rook is there, the queen delivers a checkmate. Very nice, all those different variations after queen h3, with the rook going to any square to avoid bishop f5 checkmate, but on every rook move there's another refutation. Very beautiful. Hope you enjoyed it, and Joel, thank you very much for sending it to me. Hope you enjoyed these compositions. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the Chess to Progress channel. Please leave a comment, and if you liked the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media. You also may want to check out my Chess to Impress channel. The link is in the description box, as well as a link to the sponsor of Chess to Impress and Chess to Progress, which is the Mind Game Shop. Please click on the link and see what they have on offer. There's also a competition running on Chess to Impress. You may want to check it out. You can win a chess book. This is Rick from Chess to Progress. Thank you for watching.